Feels good. Feels good.
Well, I'm sure this video won't get me euthanized. Yes, you are not shitting yourself. You are reading the title correctly. I wholeheartedly believe that Henry Danger is a better sitcom than iCarly. But don't worry guys, it's just by a tiny bit. And I mean a tiny bit. I'll admit, I didn't really have the opportunity to watch iCarly when I was younger, mainly because its final episodes were airing when I was like an infant. Yes, I am very young. Please don't judge me. I was born in 2011. I had to grow up on shit like Bunsen is a Beast, or Sanjay and Craig, or Harvey Beaks, or Welcome to the Lane, and The Loud House, and Modern SpongeBob. It was truly a terrible time to be alive. But the one show on that network that intrigued me the most by far was Henry Danger. My older brother, who was about 9 at the time, was very big into the superhero genre, particularly ones from Marvel. One night when I was watching Nickelodeon, my brother asked if I could watch with him, to which I said yes. My sister came along a few minutes later, and I also said yes. We then watched a couple episodes of Henry Danger while it was still airing. We got a couple laughs out of it, and up until that day, ever since its cancellation, me and my siblings were on that shit like a hook. SpongeBob, Henry Danger, and Paw Patrol. Pretty much the only shows that I were willing to talk about, and the only things I knew how to talk about. Those were the days. The cold, miserable, and utterly pathetic days. Alright, let's talk about quality of episodes. Now, if we're specifically talking about both shows as first halves, which are seasons 1 through 3, I would definitely say that iCarly has a better track record of episodes. But if we take both shows' entire series into account, then I would definitely say it's the other way around. Seasons 4 and 5 of iCarly were a mixed bag to say the least. Even Season 2, it's an obvious black sheep of the first 3 seasons. Not to say that it's still relatively good, but it is significantly weaker by having some of the worst episodes from the older seasons, but having some of the worst episodes from the entire show. I Meet Fred is a disastrous crossover, and everybody just bullying Freddy over an opinion is just so distasteful to watch, and they never really apologize or offer any jokes to salvage it. It's just a shitty crossover event only made to profit off of the success of Lucas Cruikshank, and can likely give the Simpsons guy a run for its money when talking about terrible crossovers. I Did a Bad Boy and I Saw Him First are 2 other really bad ones from this season, just poorly written drama and not enough jokes that land. Although, I will say, no matter what episode, Spencer slaps. I can't think of a single moment where I genuinely disliked his jokes nor his character. Anyway, I just personally thought that the first 3 seasons were kinda okay, but then I got to season 4 and I noticed that it was so much worse in quality. What happened? The poorly written drama. They focus even more on drama this time around. Yes, this is known as the SETI season, and yes, every episode of it sucks ass. This arc is one of the worst things the show has ever made. Not only is it not funny and samey after a little while, but it dumps everyone down and nobody is likable in the slightest. I Can't Take It is easily my least favorite episode. It is so frustrating to watch, and thank God this arc had ended soon after. Season 4 is bad mainly because of this, but there's also other reasons. Weaker plots, weaker jokes, and just mixed characterization all around. Ever since Season 4, I've grown to hate Sam, and it's kind of a shame too because I initially thought she was just an okay character. Season 5 was an improvement over 4, but I still thought it was just okay. I'm kinda glad that the show had ended after this because I don't think it could ever go back to what it once was. This was an extremely hard one for me to do, as I do think that both finales were a great way to end such comedy giants, but after a couple of rewatches, I eventually gave it to Henry Danger, only if just barely. One thing that I really enjoy off the finale of Henry Danger is the consistent conflict between Henry and Captain Man. Yes, I know, they don't have the greatest relationship out there, and 90% of the time they are seen arguing or doing some stupid shit, but all of that is usually played for comedic effect. This felt real. I can feel it in my bones. Well, I will admit that there are some parts of this finale that are a bit corny, especially when it comes down to the funeral scene, but that's the beauty of Henry Danger, and a lot of other sitcoms that came out during this time. They somehow managed to do it in a way that's not too tiring like Marvin, or just flat out annoying like Fred the Show. Unlike iCarly, where a good half of its emotional scenes are often outplayed by its jokes, Henry Danger notices that there's a time and place for everything, and that's why I like it as much as I do. I get that these shows are comedy-centered and they don't really have the time to do sappy stuff like this, but just take a look at a show like SpongeBob. That's a comedy-centered show, and they've made plenty of sad moments, hell, even episodes over the years. Welcome to the Chum Bucket, Grandma's Kisses, Dumped, Have You Seen the Snail, and All That Glitters, just to name a few. Speaking of comedy, I do think that iCarly is a relatively decent sitcom in terms of jokes. However, I do think that it can be a little stale at times, especially in the last 2 seasons, and it would seem that Freddie and Spencer are carrying the majority of the show's comedy without giving any other character a time to shine. With Henry Danger, meanwhile, every character's a riot. Henry, Captain Man, Jasper, Charlotte, Piper, Swaz, even some of the villains. It's an all-star showdown. It's like a clown car in there. Sure, the jokes in Henry Danger are mostly generic and bog standard, like what you'd usually see off of a Nickelodeon sitcom, but they use those weaknesses and turn them into strengths by creating a generally funny, albeit predictable, children's sitcom. Both Henry Danger and iCarly's reboots are just about the same in quality, that being having not much of it. I hate Henry Danger's reboots with every fiber of my being, and they shouldn't have never been made nor even greenlit. One of them unironically mentions the word dabbing in an episode that was made back in 2021. How do you do, fellow kids? Even though the Nickelodeon is a channel primarily focused on kids. Ah well. As for the adventures of Kid Danger, I was legitimately struggling to find the intro for this show. It's nowhere to be found on YouTube, and not even the official Nickelodeon YouTube channel has an intro base for it. That's how forgettable the show was. There's a reason why it only lasted for 1 season. As for Danger Force, I won't lie to myself and admit that the series finale was okay, but it's definitely time to stop now. Henry Danger in its original finale was the perfect way to end a good show, and should have just stopped right then and there. But hopefully with this finale, Nickelodeon will finally put this series to rest. But knowing them, they'll always find another way. Welcome everyone to the brand new installment of the Dangerverse, Force of Danger, where the children from Danger Force eventually have their own children and force them into becoming superheroes like they did when they were whippersnappers. Now trained by an elderly Captain Man, his last wish is for them to do good and to be superheroes and save the city of Swellview, I guess. Oh, and their final episode contains a world-ending threat that will take over the entire world if they don't stop them. The end. So after I was done watching those 2 monstrosities, I decided to head straight into the iCarly reboot, and honestly, it isn't much better by comparison. This show definitely lacks the humor and fun that the original one had. The one good quality to come out from this show is Spencer. He's still hilarious here. What's unfortunate is that nobody else is. One of the problems I have with this show is that some of the elements from the original show had been brought back to this show when it really shouldn't have had. Carly still rags on about her relationships. Freddie is still a punching bag, although debatably more miserable. The newer characters either range from not contributing anything to the show or just being flat out terrible. And Freddie's daughter is a character that I often forget exists sometimes because of how poorly the show uses her. Harper is supposed to be the apparent replacement for Sam, and she's the most stereotypical sidekick character of all time. Her entire existence is based around appealing to the vast majority of Gen Z. I don't like Sam as a character, as I just said a couple minutes ago, but I do think she would have been a way better character than whatever we got here. But just like another revival series that I know, the show would eventually be cancelled after 3 seasons. And while I didn't care for it all that much, it's kind of a shame, especially since this cliffhanger episode could have the chance to be something good if it was given the opportunity to have 1 more season. The show was cheap to produce and had some pretty promising ratings, so if this is the show they decide to cancel, then I can't imagine to see what's in store for Paramount Plus's future, if they even get to have one. But I guess it's fitting, ain't it? iCarly started with a writer's strike and ended with a writer's strike. The duality of man. I'm not even going to pretend like this is up for debate. iCarly wins this one 10 times out of 10. The only time I remember Henry Danger doing something music-related was in that one musical episode, where characters would just stop mid-sentence and sing dumb songs that range from bad to downright awful, stopping the same old dumb bad guys and saving the dumb city of Swellview once more. It's dumb. It's all it is. It's just dumb. It's infantation. It's infantation. It's like the writing staff at Nickelodeon had no idea on what a musical actually was, so they just threw random shit in the wall and see what would magically stick. I can understand an 8-year-old watching this and enjoying it. I mean, I certainly did when I was little. But now looking back at it all these years later, I can't help but feel a bad taste in my mouth. Just steer clear from this one in case if you want your sanity in check. So in conclusion, while I do think that iCarly is a relatively decent sitcom, it is nowhere near the 10 out of 10 masterpiece that it's been hyped up to be. Henry Danger is far less appreciated, and it's very sad to hear. My guess is that it has something to do with during this time, Nickelodeon was at an all-time low and TV was just dying in general. It isn't any better 12 years later. Not helping that the fact that it was sandwiched by some of Nickelodeon's worst offerings to date, such as Rocket Monkeys, Sanjay and Craig, and Breadwinners. But if you push those reasons aside, then this sitcom is fine on its own. While it isn't something like Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, Keenan and Kel, or The Amanda Show, it still adds its own unique aspects into the mix. High stakes, memorable characters, and jokes that hit the landing almost every time. But I don't want to ramble too much here, so I'm just going to give the final ratings for each show and end the video. For their main installments, I had decided to give iCarly a high 6.5 and Henry Danger a low 7. For their reboots, I decided to give iCarly's reboot a 3 out of 10, Danger Force a 2, and The Adventures of Kid Danger a 1. Alright, that's it. That's the skit. We're done here. You can do something else now. You can watch something more productive with your time.